What's going on, guys? My name is Zach. Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be going over a few things which have been requested quite a lot recently. I know I think Dan was looking at it from the stream, who does Eve. A couple of lads on Facebook from Zach's channel wanted to check it out as well. Some After Effects basic tutorials. So we're not going to be doing anything absolutely like mind-blowing, because like obviously I'm still learning this as I go as well, but I've got to grips with the more like just over the basics, I would say, and how like all the stuff works in After Effects. So we'll try and explain it like as easy as I can, but it looks more complicated than what it is, guys. That's all you've got to do. As soon as you've got it set up the way you like, it's absolute cake, and learn all the little features of it, because like doing simple fade ins and fade outs is a lot more complex than say something like Sony Vegas, where you just literally drag like a video clip over another one and it automatically creates a fade. So basically After Effects isn't really meant to edit videos fully like all the time. It's just really meant for compositing and adding effects on, but I use it all the time just because I'm used to it. So like I say, it is a little bit fiddly, but it can definitely be workable as doing full projects, which I've been doing obviously for the last few years. And this is After Effects CC 2014 edition as well. And just before we kick off, I wouldn't recommend getting the 2015 edition, because this little thing here called the RAM preview is no longer available on that, and it makes like real-time preview and video pretty much impossible without this RAM preview thing. So again, that's something else we'll talk about as we go through. But in all of this, I thought, how am I going to actually show you guys what to do rather than just showing you the little bits and bobs? So what I thought would do is I uploaded this video called the Predator Scythe the other day, which is a little clip from Star Citizen of me blowing a ship up in one of the alien ships, the Vandal Scythe, obviously. And I added some Predator style effects on because it merged well with the ship UI, with it being red and stuff. So we'll watch this, and then I think the tutorial will be actually recreating this video, because it goes over, like, it's got loads of fades. Well, it's got some fades in, it's got some overlays which have got blending modes attached to them, a little bit of tracking, and some like brightness settings and stuff like that. So pretty easy to get you in if you're just beginning. But yeah, let's get started. So we'll watch the video, then I'll talk you through what we're actually going to do, and then I can show you all the elements that I use to do it, and hopefully you'll get to grips with like After Effects a little bit better than what you are now. So let's get this rolling. And that's pretty much it, guys. So I'll just run through now without sound as to what we actually did. So right at the start, we've got a super easy fade. I know it's not like a massive thing, but in After Effects, it helps keyframing and stuff like that. So we've got the shooting. And then we've got the actual overlay. Now on the overlay is actually like a separate video, and it's like got a black background, but we use the blending modes to like take out the darks and keep the highlights, so it gives with a nice like overlay on the top. And moving along just a little bit, we've then got the Predator lock-on thing, which again is another video, all black, and we just use the blending modes to get rid of all the black and keep the highlights. And that sort of animates in itself. So it's pretty much all stock stuff. We're not literally animating every single part. And that's the amazing thing about After Effects. You can get all this stuff for little work when you put your mind to it. So that goes in, and there's a tiny little bit of tracking, which we can go through again. A little bit of screen shake added in, just to give the more oomph effect of the explosion. And that's the open smoke out row, which we use for the organization in Star Citizen. Pretty cool as well. Did that in After Effects. Added the logo in and shit. Pretty good. So yeah, let's get this rolling. Okay, guys. So one of the first things we need to do when you open After Effects, it might look a little bit different to mine. I'm running on quite a big display, 1440p, so yours might look a little bit compact if you're like 1080p or lower. But as for the panels and stuff, it might look a little bit different as well. So you want to set it up the way that's going to be sort of similar or easy for you to do, to like get into, especially like if you're used to Photoshop, you'll have stuff like all over the place where you like it. So currently my workspace up here is standard, and you can change this as to what you're doing, and it like adds and takes away panels that are necessary for those jobs. But like I say, mine's standard, and I've just literally moved like panels where I want them. So Over here is like your main project stuff. So you drag folders or you add video files into this little area. That's all your like raw footage that you're going to be working with, and sound, music, etc. This part down here is all of the controls for the layers of videos you're going to be putting on, or sound and stuff as well. We'll get to in a sec. Over this way, we've got my paragraph and character editing tool. Obviously for when we're putting text in. With effects and presets, this is all like the extra stuff After Effects can do. All your like your key in and stuff. Your brightness, your contrast, everything. So it's easier just to like search if you want to change something. Like the hue, for example, you would just search hue and then literally drag it on to the video clip, and then you would get another window up here, the effects control panel, like a quick edit for any effect you put on, or you can do it down here in their properties once you put it on. Getting back to the RAM preview as well, so this is what we use all the time to actually render and preview what we've done in After Effects. And because it's not like Sony Vegas or anything, it's like I say, it's more for compositing and stuff. You need to use the RAM preview all the time. You can't actually preview stuff in real time, so you literally can't press play and it'll go. You've got to RAM preview it, and you'll get your little bar that builds it up. So having as much RAM as possible is really good. And up the top here, we've just got some audio, which I like to just keep an eye on to see if anything's peaking. So to move stuff around, it's literally you just drag and drop. Then you can have it inside or on top with that. So that's super easy. Nothing complicated there. So once you've got it set up and looking good, we can shift on anyway. There's some tools on the top. So this is the one you'll be using most. Selection tool. Hand tool, you can like move the actual preview around when it's on. Zoom tool, etc, etc. Text tool, with pen tool, rectangle, all that stuff for doing masks and things, which we won't get to probably in the first couple episodes of this series, but we'll move on to the masking and stuff eventually, because it's really, really handy. And again, something that's pretty simple and a really powerful tool. Awesome, guys. So to add actual content into After Effects, we just need to right click on the project area. There's a couple of ways to do this. So we can actually import file, and then we can search for computer. Or we can actually, I haven't got this set up really well. 1 second. We can open the folder and we can drag and drop. So that's where actual Star Citizen video file, and we've got some audio and the effects. So everything we need is here. So we've got our Star Citizen footage, we've got our overlays with the Predator stuff, and we've got the sound effects which we used as well. And having, like, in any video, if you're making like a cinematic and stuff, sound is ultimately the deciding factor. Editing's always like really good, but sound gives it the impact that it needs. Hopefully we'll get a taste of that as time goes on as well. So to actually make a composition, as it's called in After Effects, basically your final video of what it's going to be down here, your timeline. There's a couple of ways to do this as well. You can either go to composition, like that, and then hit new composition. This window brings up everything you need to know about what kind of like video output you're going to be making. So obviously we can change this. This is like 1920 by 1080. We can change this to like 1440p or whatever. Frame rate, obviously that's going to depend on what you want. If you're doing cinematic type stuff, I would definitely recommend leaving it at 30. Because 60 FPS looks a little bit cheap when you're doing cinematics type things. Resolution, full, obviously, blah, blah, blah. One of the most important ones here is time and duration. So I usually set a time of just like 5 minutes or something, depending on what I'm doing. So if it's like a trailer for something, I'll do like 5 minutes. But you can have that literally anything you want. And you can always come back and re-edit this as well, like especially the time. So we'll just cancel that for now, because we'll show you a much easier way, which I do. So we'll just get our base footage. If we drag it down here onto the composition button, that automatically matches the composition to the template of this video. So it's going to know it's 1080p. You can see up here. And it's going to match the, well, 29.97, basically 30 FPS. So that sets basically the composition up. And that's what I like to do. But you will notice that the timeline here is dictated by the length of the actual footage you put in. So if it's too short, we can just go composition, composition settings, then change the time down here. So you can see it's like 14 seconds, which isn't long enough. If we just put like an extra minute on and hit OK, that's going to increase this. Now a couple of the things just to go over the navigation. So obviously we've got our main window in the middle, and we can click along here of our timeline to get to different parts, or we can just hold it on. Depending on how good your computer is, this will like sort of render in real time-ish with no audio. And we can use the mouse wheel to zoom in, zoom out. And if you zoomed in fully and you need to move, just hit the hand tool. Then you can like drag and move it around, etc, etc. But one of the best ones, so you've got magnification stuff down here, hit up to 100%. That's the way I normally keep it, and then it just fills the whole screen all the time. So that's something to take note of as well. Excuse me. This little bar on the top as well is basically a zoom. So this is the full time now. We've set like 1 minute and whatever seconds it was. 1 minute 14. And also we can use this down here, which was a zoom. So it's basically doing the same job, but I find using this is a lot better. So basically this is like a zoom in and a scrub tool as well, like a scrubber tool. And the little red line represents where we are time-wise in the timeline. That's quite handy. We're going to be using that quite a lot. And then under here, again, we've got another bar, which is our time ruler. So basically, if you've got like a 1 minute clip footage or something, you can literally drag this down. And if we added this to the render queue and made a video of this, it would only render this little part here. And if we had it all the way up, that would render that video up until this end. Basically, that's the best way I can describe it. So we'll go over again these tools as we're going through. So don't worry, I know it's a lot of info to take in. The next thing we need to do is look at our base footage here. So you can see we've got where the eye represents, is it visible or not? The audio again, on or off. And we can actually change color as well. So it's good for like if you're dragging loads of audio files on, you can color them different. Then you can, at a glance, you can see that they're audio files and things. The switches aren't really important right now. They probably won't be switched on the default loadout. And this is like the important stuff which you're going to be using all the time. So if we just bring down the properties of this layer, you can see we've got audio options. We've got transform. So transforms where you can like really pull the scale up with the position, everything like that. That's a really handy thing to do. The opacity, we're going to be using that quite a lot to do with fades. And we do all the fades manually, which is a little bit of a clusterfuck, but it really gives us full control over the fade time and everything like that. Position. The thing with position as well, you can either do it like this, or that'll obviously move the video file up and down. Fit that to 100. You move that, you can literally just hold left click and drag. Control Z obviously brings it back. Or you can click it once and then manually set a position. So these are things that we need to make note of as well. And keyframes we'll get to in a... That's the way everything animates. Get that back to center. Scale, obviously that makes it big and small. Self-explanatory. Rotation again, blah blah blah, that's pretty much all the same. Now you can move the position and things with the actual mouse when you're on your selection tool. So you can move it there, and you can see down here as I'm moving, everything's like moving as well, so it takes into account everything you're doing with the mouse. That's like a quick way of doing it. But if obviously if we can't like drag it up pretty straight, you see how it's like going jaggy. Best way to go up's like in a straight line, just to couple of things there that may come in handy for you, or definitely will come in handy as we go through this video. Audio is a really important one, like I say, and we can change the audio levels here. We can go all the way down to nothing, or we can make it go like crazy, but 0 decibels is the standard audio of which you imported it in. And you can actually get a waveform as well, which we do work with a lot like waveforms especially. So you can see here where the explosion kicks in. It's like super loud, so I know at a glance, even if I'm over here on the timeline, that's the explosion. But right there. Audio, like I can't emphasize enough, audio is absolute key for doing stuff like this. But always using that. Mainly on like audio tracks though. Sound effects. Cool. And everything you import, like whether it be sound effects, other videos, will always have these transform and audio options as well. That's pretty cool. Right, so the next thing we need to do, obviously we've got this like flipped in massive. I think we're just going to set the time to like 20 seconds. That'll let us zoom in a bit easier. Off. Down. There we go. You get a lot more control over that. Leave the time bar where it is. Right, so basically what we needed to do, or yeah, actually got the fade there. Another handy tip as well, obviously you can move your layer around. Wherever you want your layer to start, we can actually hold left alt and then press begin bracket. That'll chop the layer to there. Obviously it's all black here. We'll go right back to the start and just drag it in. Now you can get really like crazy, you can zoom in like tons, so you can literally see 1 frame, 2 frame on the timeline there. Literally move it frame at a time. For the most part, we'll not be messing around with that. What we need to do is a basic fade, guys. So we need to go transform. This is where keyframes come in. So you've got to think of keyframes as like 2 points. So you set the first point as a value, the second point is a value, and then in the middle, After Effects will automatically animate the in-between values. So it'll animate the first one to get to the second one in order of what it needs to do. So in order to do a fade, we need to make a keyframe. So we'll set right at the beginning, yeah, on the timeline. Hit the keyframe. You'll see on the timeline we've got a little dot. So that represents a keyframe, After Effects. And for this one, to fade it in, obviously we're going to start black. So we need to drag that all the way to 0, or type 0 in. And then a couple of seconds later in the timeline, you've got your time here as well. We'll say 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds. You can make another keyframe. So we'll just click it again. You can see we've got another one. Then we need to change that all the way back to 100. So this keyframe's 0. And this keyframe's 100%. You can see if I bring it back, After Effects is doing all the work now by bringing that back up to 100% for us. That's the way that works. So anything in between, After Effects will automatically do what it needs to do to get to this point, which is 100%. So we'll get a nice fade in. And we can actually just preview this really. We'll go, don't worry guys, we'll go over the ramp preview in a bit. So there you go, we've got a nice fade. That's a little bit long actually, but good. So you can move these keyframes anywhere you want. If you want the fade to be super long, you can have it super long. If you want it short, you can have it short. Pretty cool like that. Short fade's always good, just for bringing something in. There you go, much better. Right, so this is where the fun will begin now. So I was basically shooting this ship, and I wanted the Predator overlay to kick in, and then the lock on come just as like before he was blown up. So pretty cool. Around the 2 second mark, I think we'll actually bring the Predator thing in. And I used this from like literally years ago. I'm talking like from the Modern Warfare 2 days, where a guy recorded himself playing, I think it was Alien vs Predator, I can't remember which one for the PC, but he overlaid the HUD from that onto like a Call of Duty video, and then he made this video like as a guide. So we're just going to steal that basically, instead of like playing the game and recording it ourselves. So there's a couple of ways we can actually import footage onto a timeline. We can either drag it down. Or you can drag it into here like this. And yeah, you can see that because the resolution of that video file is smaller, it's given with that outline. Obviously it's smaller than the footage that we're going to be editing. So we can just plop that in. Now this is actually like a full video. We just need to put it along here. We can like literally drag. There's the thing for the predator, lock on. And there's the actual overlay which we're going to be using. Like that, you can see the way it works. So we need to find where that source starts. Fine. So again, if we hold left alt and then begin bracket, that'll cut it so it starts there. Then we'll just find the end of it. Or it starts moving rather. And then we'll hold left alt and begin end bracket to cut it. Can manually cut it, but I think this is a much quicker way. So we've got with overlay footage now. So we want that to kick in around 2 seconds. Zoom in a little bit here. And obviously it's not matching up with the resolution of our actual Star Citizen video. So there's again a couple of ways to do this. Depending on how like precise you want to be. So we can bring down more options for this. We can go to a transform. Like there is shortcut keys for all this stuff, by the way, guys, but I never use them. Too lazy. So for the scale, we can literally scale it up like this. Or we can grab, like, use a selection tool, make sure that's selected. Oh, make sure the layer's selected as well. Dick. Doing it wrong, boys. Why is that not moving? Wait that a minute. Mouse cursor's not in the right place. Right. No idea what's going on. But usually we can grab the sides here with my mouse. Nope. Oh, that's like totally crazy. So we're going to have to do it the old school way. Merge it up like that. We need to make sure it's above. Fine. So it doesn't matter if it goes on the outside because we want to make sure it's like full anyway. And now we'll go over one of the most important things when overlaying effects, which is the blending modes. So obviously anything that's shown on here, it's all done in layer. So because this predator overlay layer is above me Star Citizen footage, obviously when it gets to that, it's just going to show this. So we'll still get the audio playing from the Star Citizen stuff, but we're not going to see the actual Star Citizen video unless we do some blending mode options. So basically all we need to do here, I'll not go over all the blending options, I'll just go over the one we're going to use. We can right click on the layer. Then we'll just go to blending mode and it's set normal now, which is obviously fine. And these are all the blending modes. If anyone's used to like Photoshop and stuff, I'm sure they'll know like what most of these are. But the one we're going to be working with the most, or I find myself working with the most in After Effects, is called Add. And basically what that does, it takes away all of the darks, all of the like the super high contrasty bits, and it leaves all the highlights in, adds them into the mix. So if we just click Add, there you can see basically what's happened. It's taken away all the darks, left all the highlights. That worked. That's pretty cool, but obviously you can see it's a little bit of a funky color. Green and we wouldn't know was red. So that's easily solved as well. So if we go to our effects and presets and we just type tint, this is a really good like colorizer. Pretty basic. And with the effects, you can either drag it down onto the actual layer, or you can just drag it onto your timeline, and whatever layer's on top, that's where it'll go. So once we drop that in, it defaults to our effect control. Tint here, and again, it's pretty similar to the way you drop down one box here. And we do actually get those options there as well. But basically you can see, because we've added with tint in, it's defaulted down to the like 0 saturation, basically, the black and white. So this is good for messing around. And we don't want to do anything with the darks. I mess around with the highlights. Map to white. Change the color here. That'll bring the color box up. And we can literally like change it blue, green, any color you like. But obviously because we're Predator, going red, going full red as well. We'll hit OK, and that's pretty much done. Project. And again, we can get back to the effects and things just through with properties or tint. We can set keyframes. Again, like you can set keyframes for absolutely everything, guys. Basically, that's how that works. So add is definitely your blending mode friend. I use that like all the time. Absolutely all the time. Like lens flare footage, and you can put that on and then set that to add and you'll just have the flare instead of all the black. That's a really handy thing to do. So basically now, you can say it just kicks in. It looks a little bit boring, just comes on and that's it. So what I did was, we're just going to use the frame. So this is like previous frame, next frame to get to the center of that, the beginning of that, sorry. And a bit more. What I did, I brightened it up as it kicked in. So basically what we did, we added exposure or brightness. Pick. In my case, I used exposure. Again, we'll go through this way this time. Let's see the keyframe. Exposure. We'll master settings. This is what exposure as well. So a lot of the tools and stuff have got like tons of settings, but basically the only one we're going to be using here is the actual exposure level. So at the start, just set a keyframe. It's set for 0 right now. As we move that up, you can see the interface like intensifies. Obviously that looks pretty terrible, so go that high. Only for an instant, so the stuff in the middle doesn't do much. 4.22. Moved it over literally just a couple of frames, and then we'll set it back to 0. So basically, you're telling After Effects at this keyframe, it's going to be that exposed. At that keyframe, it's going to be like default, pardon me. And that worked out pretty well, so a little bit, so we'll see. I'll give it a RAM preview. See already that it kicks in. So it's got a nice flash as it comes in now, which I think's a lot better. And also, as we add the sound effect on, that's just going to like make that more impactful. Give that a little bit longer. Right, so that's basically we're in motion of that. Done with that layer for now. What kicks in. So now the next thing was name these so the shorter names. Project. And we're going to import that same clip again into here. This is basically a duplicate. Then we're going to scrub along and see where the actual lock-on thing is. Starts around here. Going to go left alt, begin bracket. Going to find the end. Obviously we don't want the and bit shown. Get back a few frames. Then left alt, end bracket. That'll give the actual footage. And you can see it was a little bit, it felt a little bit squashed. So what I did was, not being kind with this mouse today. If it's because I'm recording. Going to transform it a little bit. Wash it in so it looks a little bit more of a triangle. Scale that right up, I think. And then again, we're going to use the blending mode. I'm going to set it to add, so it shows. Then we're going to use the tint again to make that red. Drag it on. Highlights the red. There we go. And it was quite, even though we did put the tint on, it wasn't really bright, so we're just going to add an exposure to this too. And because we're not keyframing this, we want it to be the same exposure all the time, we can just literally change the exposure there. A little bit rough now, but you get what I'm going at. So, next thing to do, to make sure you see these edges, like this. I did leave a couple of them where it wasn't shown like perfect, but it's over that fast, you can't really like tell what it is. So that's the footage there. Really, oh, there we go. My mouse pointer is just off a little bit. So as you're dragging with your mouse any of the edges, you can see it's hard to keep it like uniform sized. So if we hold shift as we're dragging, it'll keep it like the same aspect ratio. That's another really good little tip which I learned. And then we can let go. So basically now that comes in, we shouldn't have any of the clipping off the side, so it looks perfect. Actually looks better than what I uploaded. There we go. So basically we just need to match that up to the explosion. For the last frame at least. So that's off there. That's it. Actually we need to drag that in a bit, don't we? Perfect. So we can literally just move it around on the screen like this. So all we need to do is find the explosion when it happens. And there we go. So at this point we want the triangle to disappear, or the lock on to disappear. That'll be the last frame here. I think we need to zoom in just a touch more. Well, I hope I'm like explaining this right, guys, because obviously it's quite hard to explain like keyframes and shit. And we need to match this up to there. And one of the problems I did have was because that just goes to the center of the screen and stops. You can see how it's stopped now, but the ship's still moving. It looked a little bit weird just for them few frames, but it was noticeable. So what we'll do, we'll find the actual, in fact, if we solo this out a minute. So you can see it like just goes to the center. And then for these few frames, like it flashes, but it's not moving. So I think so we needed to find the frame where it actually lands. So here. And what we can do now, we can actually animate this. So the position, we need it to actually track the ship just for a few frames, which is like super easy. We don't need to do like hundreds of keyframes or whatever. So we're just going to hit position on the keyframe. So it's going to start here, like where it lands normally. And if we drag it, if I get a little bit closer, you may be able to tell a little bit better. So basically we want this triangle to match the movement of the ship. You see how it like goes off center for a sec? When it explodes. So basically now that we're here on the timeline and we've got this section, this keyframe here saying that it starts there, we can literally, you can either do the position manually or you can just drag where you want it to be. And you can see on screen that's the first keyframe here, and this is where it's going to end. And After Effects is going to animate that like in between, like for us. Now as we scoot through, you can see it moving. Going to match-ish. It doesn't have to be like super perfect. Another good thing about the keyframes, to move across them instead of having to line your thing up to edit them, you can actually use these arrows. That'll skip back to whatever keyframe. And also if you want to get rid of a keyframe, you can just click that and it'll remove it. Another handy little thing. Don't be scared of keyframes, guys. Matching up bit better. Obviously not perfect, but for the sake of the tutorial. But zoom it out a bit. Let's have a look. Better. And it disappears when the ship explodes. Jobs are good. So we're pretty much there, guys, at the minute. Give a quick summary of what's happening. So we've got the stock footage. And we added the predator thing. High exposure at the start, so it gives it a bit of a punch as it comes in. Then the lock on, which is super easy. We didn't need to like animate much apart from them few keyframes at the end. Pretty much it. Like that's literally all I did. And one of the most clustery fucky thing I did was add the sound effects. Project here. The sound effects are what made the actual video come to life. So the audio on this is our overlay. Back down to the waveform, you can see it on the video clip, it actually had audio with it, so we'll just take a quick listen, see what it sounded like. Back down, I'm gonna turn it down just a touch, loud for you guys, maybe. So we'll get the predator heartbeat thing. Okay. Pull it back there. Right, so the sound effects I did have. The shoulder cannon. Definitely use that. Like a bunch of other sounds that we use. So this one, this is just the audio file, guys, so drag that in anywhere. The easiest way to tell where the audio was again just go through the waveforms. Quite a big, this was the impact one I think that kicked in. So about here was where the explosion actually works. Down a touch. For you guys. So if we know what explosion starts here, we'll just do a clip. Got the start of it, and then we'll just find where explosion actually happens. We can drag that along. There we go. That starts, I think. See how that matches up. And you've got to make sure your audio is perfect, guys. Like, again, I can't emphasize enough. Cool. Pretty good. So we've got that impact on the explosion. Cool. Nice. Right, and we also needed our part of the audio here. True. So I had the raw at the end too. Find the right little clip. That's another sound we need to use. 30 seconds on. Then we can just skip back. And instead of actually dragging the same thing, we can literally just, if we hold, if we select the layer and then hit left control and D, that'll duplicate the layer. So again, done with that one, so I can clip that here for the explosion. For this one, bring up the audio levels, waveform, so we know what we're looking at. And then we can just through ones we needed. I'm guessing that's a raw. Listen. Yep. So I think we'll actually clip this raw as well. Just a little bit after explosion. And you can tell straight away where it ends, so you literally don't even need to listen to the rest. We can clip that there. So you can work pretty quick, and we'll just duplicate that again. Audio, waveform. Looking through. Not sure it was that one I used. Flipping through. What's what? Imagine like what life would be out. What life would be like without these peaks and stuff. I think that was the one I wanted. Nope. Searching. Yeah, that's the one. So we'll definitely use this to give the effect that it was getting ready to lock on. And we had that quite far back before that kicked in. There, and that's what it sounded like. We need another effect for the actual lock-on thing. So let's duplicate this again. This. Waveforms to see where stuff is. That's the one we wanted. So this was the most important sound effect in the whole video, I feel. So let's flip that. And what I mean is that this gave the actual punch to the start of the overlay. So we've got exposure, like I said, and this works really good for this. And the highest peak obviously is going to be where it kicks in. And we'll give it a quick run, see. So you can see already that it gives like a much better impact when it kicks in. Looks really cool, and I did actually put a bit of a zoom on there as well on mine. Good so far. I think that sound effect again. Is that the one? Back a bit. Missed the first part. That. See, it looks a little bit weird, but so this is the actual thing as it kicks in. Have a listen. So we've got most of the audio on. Preview and see what it's like. All looking pretty good. And I think for raw, obviously. That was it for audio. So well, already just for something simple, we've got like 8 layers of things. But don't worry, guys. Like we can deal with tidying the timeline up. I'll show you how we do that with pre-comps and stuff. But I don't think we'll need to do that for this, obviously, because it's just like 8 layers is lol. If anyone remembers the mostly vagabond PvP video, that was like 80 odd layers when I finished that, and I wasn't tidy as I worked, so got really like clusterfucky. But yeah, basically that's all it is, just working in layers, making sure everything's like sorted. Basics. So if we go back, tidy the footage up now. The end of the raw, I think. Let's check. So we'll hit the back of that. Okay, so see how that just like cuts off the overlay. Need to fix that. I think on the vid I uploaded was actually, I didn't fix it, so it's a good opportunity. So just highlight the overlay. Need the audio for now, we don't need that. Basically what we need to do is make sure it fades out nicely. So when you're fading out, it's better to start backwards. What I mean is you start with the last keyframe first. So go to transform, opacity, and we set a keyframe right at the end. So this is where it's going to be fading out to 100%. Fading out to 0, sorry. So you can see it's like already off. We'll move it just back a little bit. And then we'll bring it back to 100. 100, 100, 100, and then fades out like that. And also because this has got audio attached to it, a little trick we can do. Bring that back up. We need to make sure the audio doesn't snap out as well. So the audio levels. Find it. So we can make a keyframe here again. For normal volume. And then a really good thing if you want to match like fades with audio fades. So we've got our keyframe for our video. Just snap to that one. Then automatically, because we're on the timeline here now, you can just scrub that down to 0% or like minus 48 decibels, which is like 0 volume, and it'll just make a keyframe on that exact thing. Or you could like obviously move it around as you normally would as well. But doing like fades like that's really cool for working with keyframes. We'll see how that sounds now. Looks. Still getting a little bit of a thing shown. Audio to die a little quicker. Yeah, that'll do. Right. It'd actually be on the raw. Yeah, you can see there's a little peak there. So this is the good thing about like working with audio. You can actually see everything that's happening. Get that little clip at the end. So fix that. We'll just drag the layer down a bit. Got it. That'll be fixed. Go. Good. Also, you can rename these layers. Get like raw. But I generally don't need it. They're just to like crack on with stuff. Sometimes I do colorize them, but you can see because these are just audio files, After Effects is automatically giving them different color compared to the video files. That's handy, but we can't really want it to be special. Select all the things like you normally would. Click here. Would make all the audio layers blue. So that's another handy thing you can do. Right, so next thing we need to just add a little more oomph to the beginning. Give it like a little, like a zoom, like a really fast zoom in video footage. So what we need to do for that, let's tidy here a sec. This one, need to actually adjust the scale, transformation scale. So it like zooms in a tiny bit, then comes back. So we're going to be dealing with a few keyframes here that are really close together. And we're set with position. Standard one here. I think we're actually going to position, sorry, scale, that's what. As it kicks in, I'm going to zoom it just a tiny bit, like not even 17%, like or 150. And then if we go back one keyframe, set that back to normal. I'm going to jump in like really quick. I'm going to bring it back a few more keyframes. So it's going to zoom in super quick and animate. back to normal. Just that little jump's going to give that kick in. Hopefully, alrightly. Going to make it look a little bit punchier. Go back a second, we'll test it. So it is a little bit further in than what I would like. Again, we can just go back to these keyframes and edit them. Say 110 this time. So zooming in 10%. Preview it again. There we go. So the zoom in, the audio, and the high exposure really gives that a good, like, impactful punch that kicks in. Yeah, I like that a lot. Really good. Yeah, so we're done with that now. Again, because that was pretty much the end of the video right here. Everything's faded out, the overlay. And set another keyframe for transition. That fades out, that fades out. And you can like select all and drag like multiple ones. You can copy and paste them as well, which is cool. I think, guys, that's pretty much it for this. Right, so obviously we'll talk a little bit about the RAM previewing now. So if we just normally hit play, it wouldn't do anything. It would just be like super jerky and stuff, and it wouldn't look good at all, and we wouldn't get any audio. So what we need to do is like RAM preview it. So if we set the thing at the beginning of the timeline and RAM preview, you'll see this little green bar. Like all the blue bits are the cache parts. The green bar is what's already like in the RAM. You'll see as our RAM preview, it like sort of builds up. Then it'll play out real time with audio and everything. Well, looking pretty good. Whole thing, so we can just literally RAM preview stuff. I think we'll keep the camera shaking and the wiggle options to the next episode, I think. So yeah, I hope that was a little bit insightful, guys. I know like I probably ended up rambling on a little bit, but it's really hard to explain something that you can normally like just scoot over like super quick yourself. So yeah, like I say, I hope it helps. Any more questions, anything in particular you want to see especially, would be if you just leave us a comment or get in touch with us on like Twitter or whatever, and let us know, and I can try and help you out if I can. I mean, I'm not like a super expert myself, but I have been using this for a couple of years now, and I know my way around it a little bit with the effects and things like that, and like especially for editing templates for intros and stuff. Anything like that's pretty cool. So yeah, hope that was helpful, guys, and I'll catch you in episode 2 of After Effects Beginner Tuts.